They said the little girl would never stand, not with all the money in the world, not with the finest doctors flying in from Paris, London, Tokyo, not with equipment worth more than what her city earned in a year. She sat in her wheelchair, small hands resting on the armrests, staring out of the giant glass windows of the mansion, watching children play beyond the gates she could never cross. Her name was Elara Kingsley, daughter of billionaire steel magnate Victor Kingsley, a man whose name could silence rooms, move markets, and break governments, but not fate. And Victor hated that. He blamed the world. He blamed fate. He blamed everything, except himself. One morning the sun was soft, spilling gold across the marble floors when the incident happened, the moment that people would whisper about for years. Victor was forcing Elara through another therapy session, one of countless, grueling, violent attempts to force her body to work. Stand, I said stand. Elara! His voice was firm, cold, not like a father, but like a man commanding a machine that refused to operate. Elara's lips trembled. Her legs shook. Her tiny fingers tightened around the frame of the therapy bars. I'm trying, Daddy. Her knees buckled. Her body fell. She hit the floor with a dull, heavy sound. The therapist gasped. A maid covered her mouth. The room froze. Victor's jaw clenched. He didn't pick her up. Instead, he turned away. The girl lay on the cold floor, tears rolling quietly, not from pain, but from the silence in the room. The silence of a father who couldn't love her unless she was perfect. Outside the mansion gates, life moved differently. Grass worn by bare feet, rusty bicycles, shouting children, dust instead of marble. That is where Liam lived. A small boy, thin, with kind eyes that carried more warmth than most adults in the city. He sold handmade wooden toys near the mansion gates, dinosaurs, horses, spinning tops, things he carved with a small borrowed knife. One day, as Elara's wheelchair was being pushed along the garden path, she saw him. Their eyes met. Liam smiled. Not a smile of pity. Not a curious, strange, staring at her kind of different smile, just a smile. Human. Simple. Warm. Elara didn't smile back, but her eyes didn't look away. The guard noticed. Hey, you, boy! Do not look at Miss Kingsley. Move along! He shoved Liam aside, knocking over his small basket of wooden toys. They fell into the dirt. The little horse, the small carved bird, the spinning top. Liam scrambled to gather them, his hands shaking not from fear, but from humiliation. Elara's hand gripped the armrest of her wheelchair tightly. Her lips parted, just a little, as if she wanted to say something. But the guard spoke again, louder. She's not someone you can look at. Understand your place. Liam swallowed hard. He didn't speak. He just nodded, even though something inside him cracked. The guard pushed Elara's chair forward, but Liam's eyes stayed on her, gentle, steady, unbroken, like he was saying, "You're not alone." Elara looked back one last time, and for the first time in weeks, her face changed, a tiny flicker of life. The therapist pushing the chair noticed and froze, because it was the first emotion they had seen from her in a very long time. Victor was watching from the upper balcony the whole time. His hand rested on the railing. His jaw tightened. No poor child was going to get close to his daughter. Not in his world. Not in his story. Not under his roof. And so, the next morning, the guards were given new orders. If that boy approaches the gate again, remove him. I don't care how, but fate is not a servant. The boy would come back. He had to. Because he had already seen something everyone else missed. Something no doctor had noticed. Something that would change everything. And when he returned, the world inside those gates would never be the same again. Liam's home was not more than 4 walls of patched wood and tin, standing at the edge of a crowded neighborhood where roofs leaked when it rained and laughter still found a way to echo between cracked sidewalks. He lived with his grandmother, Mama Ruth, a gentlewoman with silver hair wrapped in a faded scarf, her hands always busy sewing clothes for neighbors, Her voice was soft, but her words carried strength. Every evening, Liam sat beside her on the floor, carving pieces of wood into tiny figures. Not because anyone taught him, but because his hands simply knew how to create. As if the wood listened when he touched it. "Your hands," Mama Ruth would whisper, watching him shape a block into a bird or a dancer. "They are gifts, child. Gifts that heal what the eyes cannot see." Liam never fully understood what she meant, not then. Meanwhile, behind the tall black gates of the Kingsley mansion, silence had become the loudest sound. Ilara's world was marble floors, white walls, expensive toys untouched, and the quiet pain of watching life happen to others instead of with them. Her mother, Isabel, had once been a bright, warm presence, a woman who hummed while brushing Ilara's hair and read stories of brave princesses and gentle heroes. But illness had taken her early, and the house lost its light. Victor, in his grief, had turned to control, building walls so thick around his heart that even his daughter could not enter. He didn't hate Ilara. He feared loving something fragile. The world saw him as a king. But inside, he was a man terrified of loss. Still, his fear looked like coldness, and his coldness looked like cruelty. Ilara learned to speak softly, to not disturb, to not disappoint, because in that house, silence felt safer than hope. One late afternoon, Liam returned to the mansion gates, not because he expected kindness. Not because he forgot how he was treated, but because something had pulled at him, something in Ilara's eyes the day before. He didn't come with toys, he came with a small wooden flower he had carved overnight, the petals smooth, delicate, almost fragile, like something meant to make someone feel seen. As he approached the gate, the guards moved fast. "Boy, we told you," but Liam didn't flinch. "I just want to give her something," he said quietly. "It's not for money," the guards laughed. But before they could shove him again, a voice interrupted from behind them. It was the therapist, Ms. Anna, a woman whose eyes were always tired but kind. "Let him speak," she said. The guards hesitated, because Ms. Anna wasn't someone they could ignore. Liam held up the wooden flower. "She's lonely," he said simply. "I saw it yesterday." Ms. Anna's breath caught, because she knew, better than anyone, that the child had not laughed or smiled in almost 2 years. She opened the gate just enough to take the flower from him. Their hands did not touch, but something passed between them, understanding. Liam didn't try to see Ilara, didn't try to look inside. He simply turned and walked away. Ms. Anna carried the flower inside. Ilara was sitting in her usual place, staring at nothing. Ms. Anna knelt beside her and placed the wooden flower in her lap. For a long moment, Ilara didn't move, and then, very slowly, her fingertips touched the carved petals. Her eyes softened. Her lower lip trembled. Something inside her that had been silent flickered. Ms. Anna watched carefully. "Ilara, would you like to go outside tomorrow?" A pause. Then, the smallest, quietest whisper. Yes, just one word. But in that house, that word was a miracle. That night, on the balcony of his mansion, Victor watched the city lights with a glass of scotch in his hand, unaware that his daughter had spoken her first willing word in months. But the world was already shifting. Liam didn't know it yet. Ilara didn't understand it yet. Victor would not accept it yet, but fate had already taken its first step. The poor boy and the billionaire's daughter were no longer strangers. They were gravity, pulling toward a moment that would change both their lives forever. The next morning, the sky was soft with early sunlight, the kind that makes everything look calm, even if the world beneath it is complicated. Ilara was in her wheelchair by the garden doors, dressed in a pale yellow dress. Her hair had been brushed gently. Her hands rested quietly in her lap, holding the wooden flower. Ms. Anna stood beside her, hopeful, but cautious. Because hope is fragile in homes where pain has lived too long. "Are you sure, sweetheart?" she whispered. Ilara didn't speak. She simply nodded. The garden had always been just beyond reach, a paradise behind glass. Birdsong, fresh grass, wind touching skin. To Alara, it was a world she could see, but never belonged to. Until today. The door opened. Sunlight touched her face like an old friend. She closed her eyes and breathed. And outside the gate, standing quietly almost as if he didn't want to disturb the morning, was Liam. He hadn't come to play hero. He just wanted to be there. In case she needed something, Ms. Anna waved him forward. When he approached, Alara looked up, not frightened, just curious. Liam lowered himself so they were eye level. No words, no pity, just presence. Then, without asking, he sat cross-legged on the grass beside her chair, like he would with any friend. Alara watched the birds in the branches, her small hands tightening around the carved flower. Liam followed her gaze. They always come back to the same tree, he said softly. They remember places that feel safe. Alara's lips moved, slowly. That's nice. Her voice was faint, but it was hers. Liam smiled. Not a big smile, not one that bragged. Just enough to say, I heard you. For the first time in a long time, Alara felt like a person, not a patient. Days became routine. Liam visited. Alara waited for him. Sometimes they sat in silence, sharing the same air. Sometimes he carved things and let her hold them. Birds, butterflies, stars. Her fingers learned the shapes, as if learning to feel was the first step toward learning to move. One afternoon, while Liam carved, Alara's hand twitched. Just a little. But it moved. Ms. Anna gasped. Alara, try again. Alara focused. Her brow tightened. Heart pounding, her fingers curled, stiff, shaky, but undeniably alive. Liam didn't cheer. He didn't cry out, he just whispered, See? You're stronger than they think. Alara's eyes filled, not with sadness, but with something rare, hope. Inside the mansion, however, the walls were not as warm. Victor noticed the change. Alara's soft hums, her hands holding carved figures, the way she looked out the window, waiting. He didn't understand where this hope had come from, and he didn't like not understanding. So he called Ms. Anna to his office. His voice was controlled. Too controlled. I was told my daughter is improving, he said, which means someone is trying to take credit. Who is it? Ms. Anna held her ground. It isn't about credit, sir. He leaned forward, eyes sharp. Everything is about credit. She didn't flinch. It's a boy, a kind boy. He simply treats her like a child, not a condition. Victor froze. A boy from where? She held her silence for one beat, then spoke. From the neighborhood, outside your gate. There was a shift in the air. Victor's voice turned, cold. So you let a poor stranger near my daughter, Ms. Anna's jaw tightened. He's the first thing that has brought her back to life. Victor didn't reply, but his expression said everything interference would not be tolerated. While Victor's anger simmered outside in the garden, Alara was laughing, not loud, not carefree, but real. Liam was carving again. This time, a small wooden horse. When he placed it in her hands, something passed between them. Not magic. Not miracle recognition. Two children who the world had decided were broken, discovering they were not. But storms never wait for joy to settle. The peace was temporary. The change was real, but fragile. And Victor was already walking, toward the garden, toward them, toward the moment. Everything would shift. Again. The afternoon sun painted the garden in warm, gold, the kind of light that makes everything look gentle. But the air changed the moment Victor stepped outside. His footsteps were heavy, purposeful, angry, not loud but controlled, the kind of anger that knows power. Liam looked up first. He knew right away. Alara's small smile faded. Victor stopped in front of them, hands behind his back, like he owned not just the mansion, but the world. What are you doing here? He asked Liam, voice like polished ice. Liam stood slowly. He didn't bow. He didn't step back. He just met Victor's gaze. "I'm her friend." Victor let out a soft, mocking laugh. "My daughter does not need pity from the likes of you." Liam's expression didn't change. "I don't pity her," he said quietly. "I see her." Ilara's fingers twitched, reaching for Liam's sleeve, but she didn't have the strength yet. Victor saw the movement. Something struck him. Fear, anger, disbelief, but he buried it instantly. "You will leave," Victor commanded. "Now, and you will not come back," Liam swallowed. Not in fear, but in pain. He knelt beside Ilara and whispered so softly only she could hear, "I'll come back." "I promise." Victor's voice snapped like a whip. "No, you won't." Two guards appeared, silent shadows Victor always kept nearby. They grabbed Liam by the arms. Ilara's breath broke. No words came out, only a choked sound of desperation. Her fingers shook violently. "Stop!" Ms. Anna ran across the lawn. "Victor, don't do this." "You're hurting her!" Victor didn't even look at her. He stared straight into his daughter's eyes. "People like him do not belong in our world. Ilara. Understand that?" And that was the moment. Something inside Ilara cracked, not softly, but like a dam bursting. Her hand slammed against the armrest, fingers clawing, muscles burning, body fighting chains she had been told were permanent. Liam saw. Ms. Anna saw. Even Victor saw. But Ilara wasn't reaching for freedom. She was reaching for him, for the boy being dragged away. Her voice, small and broken, tore from her chest. "Don't take him!" The world froze. The guards stopped. Liam stopped struggling. Victor's eyes widened, not with anger this time, but shock. Ms. Anna covered her mouth. Ilara's entire body trembled, legs shaking, spine forcing itself upright, a movement she had never made before. Then, like a newborn fawn learning its first miracle, Ilara stood, not stable, not strong, but standing. Tears streamed down her pale cheeks. She looked at her father. Her voice was raw. "He is the reason I can move." Silence, so heavy it felt like the garden itself was holding its breath. Victor's face changed, the mask cracking, all this time. "You were capable?" he whispered. Ilara shook her head, still trembling. "I needed someone who believed I was more than broken." Victor staggered back a step, as if struck. Liam watched her, eyes filling. Not because she walked, but because she chose to walk to him. She took one step, then another. Her hand reached forward, and she placed it, trembling, but real, into Liam's. The guard stepped back. Ms. Anna cried openly, "Victor!" Victor was no longer the tallest man in the garden. In that moment, his daughter, fragile, trembling, reborn, stood higher than him. Ilara looked up at him one last time and whispered, "Love heals, Father. Not money." Victor had no words, because for the first time in his life, he understood he had never truly been powerful. The news spread long before Victor was ready for it, because when a billionaire's daughter, who was believed to be paralyzed since birth, takes her first steps, the world does not whisper, it echoes. But the headlines didn't praise Victor. They didn't credit specialists, therapies, hospitals, or wealth. They spoke of her courage, and the poor boy who believed in her when no one else did. Love heals. Where money fails. Miracle in the garden. A child's faith breaks generational chains. Victor watched it all happen from behind glass windows, the same glass that once separated him from the world. For the first time, he realized he had always been the one standing outside. The house changed. First Liam came back, not through the back gate, not escorted, not quietly. He walked through the front door. Ms. Anna smiled through tears and held the door for him. Ilara sat at the breakfast table, in a chair. Not her wheelchair. Her legs were still weak. Her steps still slow, but her spirit unshakable. Liam sat beside her, gently resting his hand near hers, not touching, just close enough to remind her, I'm here. Victor entered the room. The walls felt tight, the air thick. He didn't speak right away. He didn't know how. Finally, he lowered himself into the chair across from them, not towering, not commanding, just a father. I thought keeping you safe meant keeping you apart from the world, he said quietly. I was wrong. Ilara watched him, not with anger, not with softness, but with clarity. You can forgive someone without forgetting. Liam sat still, letting her speak first. I didn't need the world to stay away, she said. I just needed someone who believed I could be part of it. Victor swallowed. The weight of years settling in his lungs, he turned to Liam. I misjudged you, he said, slow, honest, difficult. You gave her something I never could. Liam didn't smile, he simply nodded. I just listened, he replied. Victor exhaled, a man learning humility for the first time in his life. And so, the mansion became a school not one with uniforms or textbooks or polished gates. A school of healing. Children from the shelters near Liam's neighborhood. Children who had been forgotten. Dismissed, unseen, like were invited to come on weekends. They played in the garden. They colored in the sunroom. They laughed in the halls that once echoed with silence. Ilara led art sessions, sitting in a chair, sometimes standing, sometimes holding on to Liam's arm. She would look into their eyes, the same eyes she once had, full of quiet hurt, and she would tell them, you are not broken. You just haven't been believed in yet. The mansion was no longer a cage. It was a sanctuary. As for Victor, he attended every session, not as the billionaire, not as the man who owned the house, but as a student. He learned to listen. He learned to kneel down when a child spoke. He learned that love was not a weakness, but the only foundation that ever lasts. One afternoon, during a quiet moment, he watched Ilara cross the garden, slowly, carefully, with her steps still imperfect. But she was walking. On her own. Liam walked beside her. Not leading, not guiding, just matching her pace. Victor's eyes softened, and a single tear, just one, fell. Not from sadness, but from understanding. He finally saw what all his wealth had blinded him to. Strength was never measured by what a person was born with, but by what they choose to rise above. And in the end, the world didn't remember the mansion, or the cars, or the money. They remembered the girl who stood up when the world said she couldn't, and the boy who believed she could before anyone else did. Because sometimes, the richest person in the world is the one who gives hope, and the strongest person is the one who learns to walk again, from love. If this story moved you, share it, because truth always finds a way.